we want to start out this podcast. Moshe made a good point. Me and Moshe met up on Shabbat accidentally, and we started talking about different things in life. And we saw the miscommunication or the distance between prior generation to the current generation, and there's a big gap. And we wanted to kind of address certain issues that kind of bridges the gap and brings the older generation to the new generation, kind of put it together and give some direction or clarity both to ourselves and to all those out there.
Yeah, and well, both ways, the old generation to the newer generation and vice versa, the new generation to the old generation, right? Sort of bridging the gap has to be a common effort from both of them to be able to, get on the same page and understand, how things were done and how things are done today, and being able to understand and bring all that together. And that's kind of the idea of, why we decided to go through with this. And, growing up, all of us grew up religious.
I mean, I didn't grow up religious.
Okay, you didn't grow up religious, but what do I mean by religious? You didn't grow up secular.
Yeah, traditional.
Traditional.
You grew up in a traditional,
Right.
we grew up in the same neighborhood. You were Shabbat, you were Chagim, you used to go to shul.
I grew up
used to go to
Shabbat.
the beach sometimes on Shabbat. I remember those days.
Yeah.
But overall, you grew up in a surrounding that was
A Jewish surrounding,
A
not
Jewish-
not a religious surrounding.
surrounding. Do you
Right.
think that has anything to do, I'm sorry, Moshe, with the fact that you lived in Fresh Meadows, which wasn't as Jewish at the time?
Not necessarily. Listen, I came over here when we were living here in Queens. It's Shabbat was basically in the summertime having kiddush on the beach. So again, I don't think we had a religious upbringing. We had a traditional upbringing. We had Pesach, for example, video recorded.
Oh,
And-
really?
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't know
and we developed, from there, through school and just exposure from the
Right.
community. And
So
stuff.
where was I getting at? Well, before I even get to that, let me take a step back. Let's first introduce ourselves. My name is Moshe. This is Itzik, and this is Elon. We're friends growing up for many, many years, and like Itzik was saying, that on Shabbat we came up with an idea to start a podcast to bridge the gap. That's how we came with the name. And back to what I was talking about, whether you grew up traditional or religious, we grew up with a certain understanding, right? We grew up respect your parents and, all the values that were built in. A lot of these values, our parents, my parents, let's say, did know, but many of the parents didn't know that it was a biblical thing, right? You learn to respect your parents from the Torah. You didn't just learn because, communist Russia decided to do it that way. All of it came from there. And so what happens is a lot of that gets lost in translation in a sense where nowadays the kids, right, if they're not respecting their parents or they're not doing the things that the way the parents want it, right, it becomes a sense of, my son is disrespecting me, my son isn't listening to me, my daughter isn't doing what I want. And what happens is it becomes friction and, we just lose the connection to that generation. So when we were in your house on Shabbat and, there were a lot of youth there, you saw that, those kids were very, very different than their parents. And a lot of the parents just didn't know how to accept that their kids are different, and that's okay to be different. They live in a different society. Their parents didn't grow up with everything that's available today. And, all that is an important part of what we're trying to do here and try to understand both sides to bring them both together.
Just to paint a picture of what Moshe just said, we started out with what it was maybe a 2 or 3 minute walk and talk, and we ended up getting to my house. We sat down, and about an hour into our conversation, maybe 15 to 20 boys walked in from the ages of 15 to 18. And like you said, each one was a little different, a little outgoing, some personalities. And we saw, to a certain degree, or you mentioned it, that these kids look a little bit lost. They look like they need direction. And the reality is, we all need direction.
Sure.
All of us need direction, regardless of where we are in life. But in those crucial years, when you're growing up, you have to have the right exposure, the right role models, the right directions, and people who have experience. I think between the three of us, we have good experience, and what we're looking to do is share those experiences,
Right.
and potentially give knowledge, direction.
Also, the age
to
that
the
we're,
youth.
we're all in that age group of it's an appropriate age because we're smack in the middle, right? You're 38,
Yeah, 39. 33.
34 and
45.
45. So we're right there. We're smack in the middle where we can connect to both sides.
I'd like to take this back just a little bit
Sure.
from where I feel the original spark was ignited, and the idea for this prior to this weekend, this Shabbat. Um, Elon actually is the one who sparked it. Eagle said, "You know what, Elon, I'm gonna leave it up to you. What kind of led you to feel that this can be something that will be good for us, for the neighborhood, and for all those watching?"
So I saw like a lot of disconnect in our community, unfortunately, and a lot of different videos are coming out, and a lot of I believe I don't want to use the word chaos, but a lot of things are happening in our community that I felt like needed some sort of leadership from people who people look up to and respect. So for myself personally, Moshe is my partner. Itzik's like a big brother to me growing up, like under his wing. There are very few people that I would say in my life that I believe could have an impact in this world. And you are the two people personally that I think people look up to. I think you have a big voice. I think that you're an important role in our community. And I feel that if people could tap in to what you guys have to offer and what your mindsets are from just your life experiences and the way you look at life, I think we're really able to make a huge change in the community for the youth, for guys our age, and even for the older people. There's a lot of confusion and misconceptions of what religion is, of how we're supposed to act, and I really believe that I guess more you two than myself can really make a big impact, and that's why I felt that it was necessary to do something to go out to the greater audience and try to
How did this come about? When did you get that feel and say, you know what, this is something that needs to be done?
I mean, from you specifically, I mean, listen, you're my cousin. You went through a hard time in the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months. I don't know the duration of time exactly, but I always believe that God gives somebody a sign, right? God gives somebody a wake-up call, and he gives wake-up calls to people who need to make a change and who are able to make a change as well. So I came to visit you, I would say a few months back. I know you went through a lot. Me, Moshe, and Yehuda, we flew out to visit you.
That was in September.
By the way, Itik lives in Boca. He moved from New York to Boca.
So when I was there and I was speaking, and I was giving a speech because I was just so happy with the amazing news, I was looking at you because I also went through my own difficulties for some time, and I always felt like it was a wake-up call. But when I looked at you and Moshe was right there next to me when I made that speech, I said, I'm looking at you guys. And I'm looking at Itzik specifically. I'm looking at him, and I'm like, this is a guy that just has everything going for him. He's a successful businessman. He has an amazing family. He's put together. He has so much elements in his life that are there and perfect that if he's going through something right now and God gave him a second chance for whatever that meant, it means he has to make a difference. And a guy like you and a guy like Moshe are the perfect people that I think could make that difference. And when I saw you, in that position and the aftermath, I really felt like once again, it was a calling, and I think it's just time just to take our opportunity. We live once, right? We're in this world one time. You have to just seize the moment, do what you can, and just go from there.
Yeah.
So I must say, I think for me and for Moshe, obviously, that kind of made an impact. Yeah. That speech that you made at that time, and I think that's kind of what led to this Shabbat. And everything kind of took place, and a lot of things had to happen for us to meet this Shabbat. It was very rare. I'm very rarely here in Kew Garden Hills for Shabbat, let alone meet Moshe. Very, very. How often do I see you on Shabbat? Yeah. Very, very rare. And a lot of things needed to happen for us to cross paths and kind of make this happen. But Moshe, I have a question for you. I mean, we're talking about bridging the gap, and one of the biggest things that I kind of appreciate or I'm into style. I'm into dressing up. I'm into kind of putting in the right effort for representation. And you came in today with a splash, with great representation.
Thank you. I'm happy you brought that up.
My question is, where did you get this jacket? What's this jacket about? Is it for a specific event, or is it specifically for the show?
Beautiful. So you just led this into a road that I wanted to go down, actually. I'm actually going to a very nice event tonight. It is a brit that they're doing tonight in a very, very fancy venue. And, it's a beautiful thing. And so try to dress the part. It is not your regular holes that you go to. It's somewhere special. Not too many details, just because, everybody wants to, keep their lives and the wraps and things like that, and I don't want to go down there. But the reason why I'm happy that you brought this up is as follows, and this is part of bridging the gap. Thank God I was blessed with 6 kids, and I have 3 boys. The first son that I had, right, I did a brit in the morning, I did a thing in the shul, whatever it was. The second one, I did a nice event at a hall at night, this and that, and, I saw that certain people that, when I was inviting them, it was hard. I understood it. I saw it. I'm like, wow, this thing is something difficult. Like, people want to come, but they, and it just gets into an uncomfortable place almost.
There's a lot of hesitation.
A lot of hesitation. So I said to myself, and then thank God I was blessed with a 3rd son. And I said to my son, no more. I don't want to do this to people. It's hard. It's hard. So my 3rd son, I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a brit, and I'm going to pay for everything. I'm not taking any envelopes from anyone.
I like that.
You took my money. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. He really did that, by the way.
Anyway.
That's the right way. I appreciate that.
And the reason why I did that is, like Elon was saying, we are, leaders in the community, right? In a sense where, we're involved with the shuls, we're involved with different organizations and things like that. And I felt like if I can make a splash, just make a splash. Until today, people come up. I remember that you didn't take money on your brit. Like, wow. I would think, why is that such a big deal? But
let me just ask you a question based on that. Do you think that should be the standard going forward when people make events? Kind of do what you can cover, and if you can't cover it, maybe mediate a little bit?
So that's where I was getting to. That's what I think one of the most important things. If you look at a statistic, I don't know the exact statistic, but many marriages end in divorce because of financial reasons, right?
It's about 56%.
Is it 56%? Okay, great. I didn't want to give a fact that I don't know, but
not for the Jews, but I'm saying fine.
Whatever. A lot of it is because people have financial issues and things like that, right? Now, what happened is in the Bukharian community, what started off as a beautiful thing, right? How did it start? From my understanding, from what I heard, they didn't want people to feel different, back when they first started. So if a rich girl was getting married or a rich boy was getting married and one with less money was getting married, right? They were both able to do weddings the same style. Why? Because people used to come and they used to give gifts. And with those gifts, people used to marry their kids off, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, right? And what evolved over time is that it's gotten more and more and more expensive. And, it's really begin to have a disconnect between the old generation and the new generation. Because the old generation is busy with, what do other people think? If I'm going to do a wedding and I'm going to do it like this, or I'm not going to have that kind of food, or I'm not going to have that musician, or $80,000 flowers, people are going to look at me like, this guy is some, misken, some, poor guy. And who's paying that price? The kids are paying the price. The 25-year-old, 30-year-old kids who are trying to buy a house, right? Trying to get themselves on their feet, are invited to weddings that they got to go and give $500 to today. $500 for a couple, right? It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I know sometimes we have 3, 4, 5 events a week.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of pressure. And that's what people, when you're invited to your brit, they're like, yo, another brit. I'd love to be there for the simcha, but
right.
Another $500. Can I afford it? Should I afford it? Should I go? Should I not go?
Right.
And I think that affects the level of their presence at your simcha.
So, go ahead.
So I'll say it like this. So this is my opinion. First of all, I think the system is a beautiful system. I agree with you. You mentioned it also that, like, the way it started, if that's the way it started, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, or it was done on purpose, or it just happened however it happened. But I'll tell you like this. I used to have a wine store, and there used to be...
It was good for business.
It was great for business, but I used to have one guy who would sell me wine, an Ashkenaz guy, elderly guy, around 65 years old at the time. And he was literally in $150,000 debt. And I asked him, why do you have this debt? He goes, I would say 95% of the debt is because I had to marry off my sons.
Wow.
And I told him, what does that mean? He's like, how do you guys do your weddings? I told him, listen, we do a wedding. And I would say the overwhelming majority of the people would, for the most part, cover most of the wedding. Obviously, there's always going to be 20, 30, 40, 50, a little extra that you got to pay out of pocket. But he said that's the most beautiful system I ever heard in my life, because you're technically financing your kids' weddings without feeling it.
Without feeling it.
Without feeling it. You're going to different parties and stuff like that. You're paying $200 at the time. When I was talking to him, then it was like $100 a person. So people were paying $200-$300. Now it's $500 a couple. It's exaggerated.
Right.
But
And I want to just touch on one point. I'm sorry to cut you off there. It's not only exaggerated. The people that you invite, right, are the people that love you, the people that care about you, the people that respect you. Those are the people that you want at your wedding. And what happens is, we don't really know, because you can't go into anybody's thoughts. But what ends up happening is, many times now they start, instead of coming to your wedding and becoming part of it and happy for you, they come as critics. Why am I giving?
think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, why am I giving $500? The guy didn't have lamb chops. The guy didn't have this. The guy didn't have that. And what happens is, more than just the money, which is a huge problem as well, people can't come and enjoy your events. That's to me, that's the hardest thing, because you live moments, right? You have moments in life. Everybody's going to have their moments. You're going to have days, your happy days, and some that are less happy. But those moments are there to be cherished, right? With the most important people in your life and the people around you and friends and things like that. And when those people come and they can't be truly happy because one guy had a bad month in business, and for him to go now and give you $500 is difficult. He wants to. It's not because he doesn't want to. He wants to, but he just can't, right? So the system that was once built, a beautiful system, to me is now a flawed system, okay? Now, I spoke to a customer of mine, and he's Persian. And what they did in their community is something very interesting. What they did was, they got a board of rabbis and Balabatim, businessmen, whatever it is. And they came up with a standard. I believe this conversation was 5-6 years ago. The standard was, if you come to a wedding, a couple is $200. That is the gift that you're allowed to give.
Meaning, right now, you're saying to fix or remedy this situation, or to eliminate or alleviate some of the pressure that is put on guys in the community, is put a standard.
Yeah, so that's what they did.
$100 or $200 per person.
Is that standard mandatory, is the question.
Right, so that's what they came up with. That is a mandatory standard. You cannot give more. This is what you go and you give, right?
Do you think that that's something that's going to uphold? Because when you go to an event for a guy who's closer to you, or you'd come to my event, or you'd come to Elon's event, or somebody that's like in your inner circle, and you come in and the standard is $200, but you want to give more.
Listen, I'm sure you could give more if it is a close family. Listen, you come up with
But
your own
that
rules.
pressure, I think that pressure kind of becomes
but
overwhelming.
out of 10 weddings that you go to, how many would you say are people that you're very close to versus people that you just go to because, or breed, or this and that, because you know them from shul, or because you know them from the community? I get invited to events where I say hello to a guy one time.
Correct.
Yeah, but guys, that's not the solution, in my opinion. The solution is...
Well, that was my next question. What do you think can be that solution? Because it is an issue that I know in the shuls and in the events and in the communities, they're kind of talking about, but we haven't really found a direction to kind of control this.
So I will say, for the most part, the way I see it is that we're in a community where we're monopolized. So when I would say 90% or 70%, whatever the number is, it overwhelmingly seems that most of the weddings are being done by one caterer. So when he's the one controlling it, and you can see obviously he's making that money for whatever reason it is, and people are buying into it, and it's fine. They like the place, and there's a monopoly. The guy has a price. The people are going to pay the price, and it is what it is.
It's not, but there are other cheaper catering halls. I went to an event at Marina Del Rey.
Okay.
Beautiful, on the water. It was catered, I think, by Chapanash, an Ashkenaz caterer. They had an excellent, smorgasbord, Very, very, lavish dinner. I didn't leave hungry. I really enjoyed myself, and I'm sure they paid less money.
But that's exactly my point. Once the standard, and people know that you're spending not $250 a person, but you're spending $150 or $140 or $130 a person, those envelopes are automatically going to change. If people know that you're spending $150, they're walking in with $300. The thing is that there needs to be a communal push where people have to go and press, or maybe make a community hall where the standards and the price, that's what they did in Borough Park, by the way.
Yeah.
There's a wedding hall in Borough Park that I think, very wealthy people got involved. They built a state-of-the-art place, gorgeous place. They even put, I think, cameras in the ceilings to video, record the entire place. And I think each seating is like $50 or $60. It's a standard package. If you want to go beyond that package, you already got to go to at least $150. They jump you up right away. If you want to spend more, it's either $50 package, and I would say 70% of the people do it that way. If you want to go a little bit more lavish because the hall is gorgeous, you go up another $100 and you pay that extra package, and you go from there.
So you're saying basically that you want to create the solution in order to solve the problem by
Yes.
having the
You're never going to solve the problem by a person spending $500 a couple and people walking in $200 giving, because no one's going to do that. No one's going to be that person to embarrass themselves walking in, giving $200 and walking out. That's not going to work.
Eli,
And
go ahead.
I apologize. Go on.
I wanted to ask you a question. When you go to an event, what about the event is most striking to you? Is it the decor? Is it the food? Is it the music? Is it the energy? Is it the ambiance? What kind of does it for you when you leave the party and you say, you know what, that was a good party. I enjoyed it.
So I would say, like my cousin Igal says, the music makes the party. So for me, I think definitely the biggest element in the party is the energy, and that comes from the music. Obviously, the ambiance is important. The food is important. Don't get me wrong. Until the past 2 or 3 years, when I would go to a wedding, I'd be dancing. I would barely eat. Now, when I go to a wedding, for the most part, the people who are getting married are not within my, friend range. So I'm sitting at the table and I'm eating more. Yeah, I'll dance in the beginning a little bit. So it does change for a person as they grow, because if you're not connected to that person, you're not really going to be dancing. So that is important also. So I think for the younger people, it's the energy. For the older people, it is the food and the ambiance. And definitely, listen, you go there for the most part for respect. A lot of us go to weddings because we know people. We come into the house, we rush out of our house, we go there, we show face, and we leave. So I don't know if most of us going to parties nowadays really care about that energy. I think they care about more coming there as a respectful thing, try to make the Baal Simcha happy, and then leave unless it's somebody really, really close to that person.
I hear that.
But like what Moshe said earlier also, which is an important thing, he's saying the pressure comes necessarily from the parents, and I don't think that's true. I think a lot of younger people want to have a nice wedding. They want to have a good DJ or a good singer. They want to have nice flowers. They want to feel good. So I think a lot of the pressure comes from them, and it is a rat race. Everyone looks at their friend and how they did it, and they want to have a nicer wedding as well.
Right. So there are two schools for that, honestly.
I want to hear your take on that. When you go to an event, what do you take out? What makes an event a good event once you've left and you look back?
Right. So a little bit of what he was saying. First of all, it's important that the people that you know at the event, is something that is the crowd is very important, right? The crowd that you know, the people that you know, the music, the food is very important. But if you're really enjoying a wedding, you really don't have time to eat anyway, right? You're hanging out, you're dancing, you're enjoying. That's the purpose of the wedding, right? Yes, that's. I would say it's just along the lines of what he was saying.
So I'll tell you what my father said. My father's a big foodie. Him and my uncle, they've been, chefs, and they probably cook the best food.
One of the best chefs.
Yeah. So my father also grew up, in the chef business, and he says, usually the highest standard style is like French style, when they serve you a piece of steak on your plate, and they,
which is less common within our
community, because we have more Russian style. It's a Baharian culture that we accepted from the Russians. Russians like to put everything on the table. The problem with that is we're paying a ton of money to food that goes into the garbage, and in my opinion, I don't think it's classy. It just fills up the table.
I agree.
So
I agree.
my cousin happens to be a very lavish wedding, I would say 20-something years ago, early. And they did a French style wedding in Crest Hollow. And they actually spend more money than a Baharian wedding would be in that style, because they did very high-end steaks and very high-end fish and stuff like that. But if you do a wedding today, that style, and have less decoration on the table in regards to food, which is going to go to the garbage anyways, you're saving a lot more money over there. So I think that's something that you can change instantly in our community. You could have a beautiful schmorgs that we have anyways, have a beautiful 3, 4, 5-course meal with some, I guess, hors d'oeuvres or different types of salads on the table, which look elegant and beautiful with centerpieces. But just in regard to that, you're saving at least, I would say, $50, $60.
Yeah, but why would the caterer want to do that, right? Because right now, if the caterer is going to get paid $250 a seat, and now you're going to give him a cheaper option, it's going to make less money. It's not exciting.
It's not exciting who cares about the caterer? You want to take my job?
That's why I think. Look, if you look at the way politics is done, right? Look at New York State, right? They don't really care about the 1%, the 10% who have money. They care about the 90%, right? You got to look at the 90%. You got to look at the people who coming to these weddings and they don't have the money to give, right? I disagree with you. I think that if you make a standard ruling, if we can somehow get some sort of, to go and build a wedding hall for $60 a seat, this is beautiful, but this is something 10 years down the line, right? This is not solving an issue. We have to find somebody who's going to either have a lot of money to do it, it's a calling for him or whatever it is. And I don't know if you'll find that person. But to find something that a community comes together, and you don't have to start at weddings. Don't start at weddings, right? Start at a brit. People make themselves birthdays today, right? And they're inviting people, right? People are making haircuts, and they're inviting people. It's a million events. But if we can get together as a community and say enough is enough, right? We don't do things this way. You want to show off? Show off with your own money.
But they tried this already.
You want to get Glenlivet 98? Good for you. That doesn't have to go on a guy who's 25 years old, trying to get his life together, has crazy amounts of bills, has to try to figure out a way to get his rent together. He wants to be able to save up money to buy a house. Bro, there's so much expenses today. And at the end of the day, the younger generation is reeling. They are reeling. They're the ones who are hurting the pain, and no one's hearing it. Yes, there are people, and the people that you're talking about that want to have lavish weddings generally are people who are coming from the wealthier homes.
I disagree with you.
Those are the people who come from wealthier homes or people who now have to act like they have money,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So it's one of those two that are coming into. But where's that social pressure from?
But again, what I'm trying to say is because that money is coming in anyways, people are able to have these lavish weddings even if they're not financially on the top tier.
Your solution, by the way, is not going to take care of that problem anyway, because
No.
a person who wants to pretend like they have money are not going to go to your $65 hole.
What would be your solution?
All right, so this is what I think needs to be done, okay? The solution is very, very difficult. It is not an easy solution, right? There are going to be people who are leaders and are going to be willing to go ahead, right? So if you go to the wealthier people in the community, the leaders of the community, right? And they're the ones who make the stand first, then it's much easier for the people to follow. That is why I didn't take money for my son's brit, because I felt like if I made that stand, somebody else would do it too, right? Somebody else would do it too, and then it could become something that trends.
Did somebody do it?
One person was telling me that he's going to do it, I
I
don't
do
know.
see-
It's a
I-
very hard thing to do for
I
most
agree.
people. It's very hard.
I do see that there are some people that come from that tier that are starting to do it.
Good,
I do see it.
good.
Not enough of it, but and the pressure is still pretty much there.
I saw an Ashkenaz guy this week. I think his last name was Schwartz. He did like he was in some podcast. Jonathan Schwartz, I think his name is. The guy has money, it seemed like, and he got married to family with money, it seemed like.
Yeah,
And he
I
said
saw
he
it.
made his daughter's wedding for $10,000. The whole thing, flowers, music, everything.
Where was this?
Somewhere in Brooklyn. I'm not saying, listen, we can't go from here to there. You're right. You can never go. You're not going cold turkey. That's a big step. And what he did was he showed everybody else, I got money, right? And I'm not doing it that way. Now,
But now what
Go
you're
ahead.
saying, you're basically agreeing with me. So you're going and you're saying you have to change the standards of the way the wedding is done, like he did. That's not
No.
That's not making somebody pay $200 or a lesser amount, because you have to understand.
Okay.
It's very, very important. Rabbi Yisraeli several years back did come out with something like this. They did a whole entire thing, and they wrote a whole entire statement from that Beis Din that going forward, this is going to be the standard of how much you're going to pay. That thing fell off after a few weeks.
because
So
and that's, by the way, that's the whole concept of this bridge of gap. The concept of bridge of gap is a lot of the times the youth don't connect to the rabbis, unfortunately, because they feel like they don't understand them. Okay, they don't feel like they understand them. Why? Because they're coming from a world of learning, of this, of that, right? And they're looking at these guys who are in business, making money, doing this, doing that. Those are the guys that they want to listen to.
I agree.
That's kind of the point of this.
That's
I
kind of
agree.
the point.
That's kind of the point of
That's kind
this.
of where you came out, and you're
Right.
saying, you know what, people connect with Moshe. People look up to Moshe.
And
People,
not me, and not my
appreciate-
own, not God forbid my own dat Torah, but obviously in conjunction with the right dat Torah.
It's about the connection.
So there's definitely an issue with the weddings. There's nothing to talk about.
Right, but I wouldn't start there.
But I'm just saying this.
I wouldn't start
I'm
there.
just saying the solution that you're bringing to go lower that amount is not a solution, because people are embarrassed. They have too much dignity. They're not going to walk into a friend's wedding giving $200 when their friend or a person they look up to spend $500.
If a big
Even if-
last name could do it, if a big last name can start it,
I don't see it.
and then it goes and it catches, everything that becomes popular becomes trendy.
I'd rather this big person with the last name make a simpler wedding
Yeah.
which is still beautiful and lavish and have great music and maybe do something, like I said, with a French style and a beautiful buffet.
Yeah, for
when
less
instead of
money.
paying, for less money, but again, not pay $500 a person.
No,
and then
we don't
expect
want
200.
that.
But again, when you
No. What I'm trying to say with the big name is as follows. Maybe I'm misunderstood. What I'm trying to say is a big name needs to step up and make a wedding that is on a lower scale than what's going on today, without 50 salads.
But it's a seemingly lower scale because, like Elon was saying before, I would say 70+% of the food just goes to waste.
correct.
Correct.
And is it necessary? It's not
No,
really
you
necessary.
don't need to have Casa Azul on every single table. They can get a regular bottle of Glen for $40.
But that's not breaking the bank. The Casa Azul is not breaking the bank. okay?
Everything is breaking the
no,
bank.
it's not, because again, I believe alcohol. I believe a nice bottle of alcohol on the table actually enhances the party. So that I disagree with. I'm going to say something else. Is that at the end of the day, the biggest issue is the monopolization of the location that we are using. If we go out somewhere else,
Yeah.
and you could have a as beautiful wedding in a different location, like you said.
Marina Del Rey.
Marina Del Rey.
So that's exactly what I'm
so
talking
that is
about.
a solution. Not
So if you have a big last name in the Bukharan community, somebody that everybody respects,
Beautiful.
a
That
big
I
guy,
agree.
really wealthy, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Good.
And he goes to a place like Marina Del Rey, and he spends $150 a person, right? 100, whatever. I don't know how much they charge today. And he does something simple, nice, classy, nothing crazy, right? What happens is the next guy will feel less inclined, and now he has a shoulder to stand on to say, I could do it too.
But it doesn't
Would
have
you
to
do this at your next event?
Listen, I'll explain to you the issue. I did it when it came up to my breed. I did it the way I did. I did not spend a lot of money. I did it in a shul. I did it simple, and I spend the money. I didn't want to take anybody else's money. So I did a pretty simple, nice event. I think it cost me between $10,000 to $13,000 for a morning event. I had like 150 people there. It's not bad. The issue is, and it's a good question, when your kids are getting married off to different families, right? And now they have a social pressure around them. I could be Superman and say, yeah, I'm not going to do it. And I really don't care to do it. I will be that guy to stand up and make a wedding for $100. I don't need to impress anybody. But when you're marrying another side, and there are other people involved, it becomes a little bit more complicated. So therefore, I'm not going to just say, yes, I'm going to be the first one to do it. But you're asking me a question. There's a long-term and short-term solution to all this. The long-term solution is definitely have a place that this can be done like the Ashkenazim did it. The Ashkenazim, by the way, are years ahead of us.
But
They build these things. They think about these things. The Hasidim specifically. I respect them a lot. They're just doers. They get things done. We need to look at them as examples,
But
role models. They got a ton of money. They don't got to show it off.
no, Guy, I disagree with you. The Ashkenazim, first of all, and the modern Orthodox, and in the other areas, they spend a lot of money in weddings.
I'm talking
a
about
lot more.
Orthodox,
No, even the Orthodox.
Hasidim.
Hasidim are different than Ashkenaz. So you bring in the word Ashkenaz. So I know the Ashkenazim. they
Even
spend-
regular Ashkenazim.
They spend a lot of money on weddings, on their entertainment, on their flowers, on their photography. They spend a lot of money. And I see my sister-in-law does events. On bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs, they spend more money than you would ever imagine.
You're talking about more the modern Orthodox. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a from Ashkenaz family, a guy from Chavetz Chaim, right?
Oh, so you're talking about
That's what-
yeshivish,
the yeshivish.
family. So
I'm
that's
sorry,
different.
I didn't use the word yeshivish.
Fine,
That's
fine.
what I mean.
So again, I would say you said something before. I don't think the weddings need to be simple. Weddings should be lavish. It should be beautiful. The food should be good. I just think that we are getting ripped off, and that is the issue.
Well, weddings, the truth of
It's
the
a big
matter is,
difference.
weddings are one thing. But what you mentioned is people do now lavish bar mitzvahs, birthday parties,
Yeah.
Chalakas, upsharing, and birthdays, and all these events now become a little too tight and maybe unnecessary. But I think this is a topic that we got to come back to, and it's never ending. But we do, I think between the three of us and everybody that's kind of watching, if you have a solution, please comment below.
Yeah.
But I have a question beyond that. Moshe, I see on your jacket, you kind of still have the tag there. Now, does that tag remain? I mean, it's a new fashion thing going on. Does
Yeah.
it stay? Does it take it off? Are you leaving it on? What's the...
Well, listen, I got to think about that. I got to see, I got to look in the mirror and make that decision. But, I really want to get back to the point here. And I'm very passionate about this. This bogs me in my head, and I want to get all my points across.
Take off the tag.
Take off. Well, guys, anybody that's here, please comment if you think Moshe should take off the tag
Oh, here we go
or
again.
leave the tag.
Like I told you guys again, at the end of the day, the important part of all of this is really, it's for the people. It's about the people. It's about how we can help people feel comfortable in their own skin. A lot of people have a lot of social pressure. I got people working for me. They get invited to birthdays. They get invited to things. oh, again, I'm going tonight to a birthday. That's the kind of reaction you want to your friend's 30th
Absolutely
birthday party,
not.
35-year-old
Absolutely
birthday party. That's what we came to? Are we all just... I have another guy that I know. He looks at all the envelopes, and he remembers how much everybody gave him. I mean, like, people have really lost their mind when it comes to this.
And then it becomes an expectation. Like, I went to all these parties.
Yes.
I'm going to make a party.
Yeah.
Make sure to invite all these guys
I
I
went to
went
your
to so I
thing.
can get my money back.
Again, I'll say one more thing, and I guess I'll end there. Is that listen? We go out to restaurants, you know, and a lot of the people even that are not financially on the same line as other people nowadays go to restaurants and drop for a couple, $200, $300, $400, you know, just for a night out.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think.
But that's by choice.
Correct, that's by choice. But I do think.
And I can decide what I want to order, and I can
Right.
decide where
There's
I
no
want to go.
pressure on that. You weren't invited.
You're getting a lot more. Listen, you're going to a wedding. You're getting a lot more food. You're getting music.
Yeah.
You're having a chill. You're giving a gift in there
I
as
actually,
well.
no.
And
Today the weddings have become so repetitive. I
Yeah.
prefer to go out
Correct.
to a restaurant.
correct.
I don't want to go to the wedding.
I agree.
It's the same
Okay.
singer. It's the same flowers.
Same music.
Same.
So
It's everything became
bit-
repetitive. You know why? Because
because
we've become copycats.
because
We are
I
not
agree.
original.
because it's monopolized.
We're
That's
not
it.
original.
That's what it is.
No, you know why? Because everybody's worried. What the other guy's gonna say? What's this guy gonna say? What's that guy gonna say?
For
Guys,
sure.
Listen.
That's with everything, Moshe. That's not just with that. That's with what you wear. That's with anything that you're gonna do.
Listen, style.
Everything-
I had the other day, a guy come to me. I'm in the jewelry business, whoever doesn't know. And he came to sell me a Rolex, okay? And he was wearing a Casio. So I bought the Casio from him, and I was wearing it.
Oh, I noticed you were wearing a Casio the other day, and I
Yes.
meant to ask you about that. Why are you wearing it? You kind of going retro, and I was like,
you know
hey,
why? And you know what? And then this week, I went to shul, and I'm wearing the Casio to shul. A little kid comes over to me. He's like, look, Moshe, I got a Casio. He's excited. What's wrong with that? Let's go back.
That's bridging the gap. You
Bro,
just connected
exactly.
with a kid on that age.
Yeah, but
Why-
Moshe, it took
what?
you time to reach that level, right?
It did,
didn't-
and it also took me time to do a
it didn't
wedding.
happen overnight.
It also took me time to do a brit and pay for it by myself. But at the end of the day, it's not a point of what I used to do. It's the point of what's right to do. I also have social pressure. I'm also a human being. Of
course.
I also react to what people think. But at the end of the day, right, the point is, and the point of this whole podcast is to bridge the gap, right?
Release the social
We
pressure.
are trying to slowly but surely release the social pressure. Exactly. People should not feel like they have to.
100%.
Look, people getting married today, right? When I got married, okay, I got a watch, right? Beautiful watch. It wasn't Rolex. It wasn't Patek. It wasn't AP. Today, the standard almost has become a Rolex. You know how much pressure that is for a father-in-law?
Of course.
I know one guy, because he came to me to buy a watch for his son-in-law. I think he spent $10,000 to buy a watch for his son-in-law, and that's the watch that he picked to give him. The guy comes back to me and tells me, my son-in-law didn't like this watch. He wanted the $13,000 watch, something else. I was shocked. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this generation?
That happens with diamonds as well. Listen, it happens.
No, but what's going on with this generation? Somebody gives you a gift, you don't tell him, I want something else. What does that mean? So look how far it went. Number one, there's a standard to give a Rolex today to a Khatan, number one. And number two, with this case, hopefully most cases are not like this, they come and tell you, I don't like it. Like, what does that mean?
Listen, in general, there's an issue with
That's how
status.
far the youth has gone in that sense. And that's how far the older generation has gone to impress the people around them or the other side. But you know what happens? People aren't happier today. Weddings aren't better today. Marriages aren't better today.
Correct.
Everything is going the other way. That means we're going the wrong way.
I agree 100%.
How do you think, and I think this is kind of what we set this podcast up, because we're very fortunate to have the Torah as our direction,
Yes.
or to give us that direction. And I think when you follow the Torah, or the closer you are to following the Torah, it puts everything else in perspective. The Torah says you get a gift, you keep the gift. You do something, you do it within your means. And in relation to that, there is somebody very prominent in our neighborhood that's very wealthy. And when he has his events are very, very, very simple, to the point that I went over to him once and was like, listen, a little extreme on the simple approach that you're taking on these events. And he was like, what are you talking about?
Well, some people are cheap.
No, he's not
I
a
don't
cheap
know.
guy.
I don't know the guy.
He's not a cheap guy.
You know,
He's not a
I'm
cheap
not
guy.
saying be cheap. I'm not saying be cheap. No, definitely don't be cheap.
I agree with Moshe.
You have to have a certain level of class. But there is, this is funny because it came from this. One time I was sitting with a friend of mine, Shachar, and we're drinking a l'chaim at a party. So we're drinking, he's drinking, and I go to him, I say, Shachar, how you feeling? He tells me, I'm feeling perfect. I told him, what does perfect mean?
Oh, I was there with you.
Remember?
I was there with
I
you.
tell him, what does perfect mean? He tells me, I'm not, too high. I'm not too low. I'm feeling
I'm
perfect.
balanced.
And what is perfection? Balance is perfection, guys.
Balance is perfection.
Balance is perfection. At the end of the day, we need to be balanced. We need to be balanced with our weddings. We need to be balanced with, how we do things, when we do things. Don't start at the weddings. Do not start at the weddings. Can we start at the Brit? Can we start at...
So again,
How do Ashkenazim do Brit?
1 second.
You ever
You're
saw an
right.
Ashkenaz Brit?
I did
They
go
put
to-
bagels and cream cheese?
but again, it's changing
And it's
also.
over.
But it's changing. Again, everything is changing. At the end of the day, everything comes down to social pressure. Everything comes down to self-esteem and self-confidence issues. That's the main root to all these things, right? Because again, I'll speak for my own kids, right? I see my daughters and I see my kids, they're growing up with the lifestyle and pressure that they have to have, certain clothing, certain shoes, and have a certain way. When I grew up with a kid, I would shop in Kmart. I would shop once a year for school. I'd go to Kmart. My parents would drop maybe $50, $60, $70 in my school's wardrobe, and that was it for the year. And, it would last me for a second year as well, and I would just buy clothes here and there. Nowadays, the standard is completely different, and it's all because of self-esteem and issues of
I'm all about
pressure.
dressing up really nice.
No, you could. No.
I think it's very important to dress well, to take care of yourself. But again, when your kid is buying a bag, again, things are normal. Kids have to grow through a stage. They're going to look at other people and they're going to learn style. That's the way it is.
Style has nothing to do with
I agree with what Moshe is saying. You gotta go out there and have proper representation, especially as a Jew.
Yes,
When you walk out there and you represent Judaism, you represent God. You gotta look put together.
absolutely.
agree 100%.
That's why the yeshivish dress code is what? It's similar to a black tie event. It's black and white. You gotta look your best
Yeah.
and your top at all time because ultimately that's what you're representing.
So you're
Now with that, we grew up a little bit differently than our kids are growing up. We grew up as sons of immigrants. While our parents were trying to survive and kind of make it here in this country, we kind of did our own thing. So we didn't really have so much style or fashion sense for people to look up to. It wasn't in our scope. Now that our kids are growing up in a different society, and we, as parents, like all parents, try to give our kids what we didn't have or the opportunities that we didn't have. So our kids are growing up in a different fashion today. They kind of have almost anything and everything that they want, which opens up their horizon to focus on clothing, to focus on what other people are doing, to focus on themselves and different social aspects of their lives. And so is it merely pressure? Not only pressure.
No, but I think he's talking more of an overkill.
No. So what I'm saying,
There's a cup that he was telling me. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. With the cup.
there's a Stanley Cup that came out. So in the beginning, I think it was $70, $80, $100 for a cup, and it was fashionable, and the kids wanted it.
What is
And I
this cup?
said,
What is this cup?
It's a
Like
wa-
a drinking cup?
It's a water cup that it's cool if you have it, right?
Stanley cup is called?
It's called Stanley,
Yeah.
whatever.
Like
It looks like a Stanley Cup trophy, I think, right? Is that
Yeah,
the
like a
idea?
trophy? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So listen, I think that you're getting a cup for school to drink water. It shouldn't cost you more than $5, $10, $15.
Yeah.
So I see this cup and it's $70, and I told my daughter, listen, it's not about the money. I'm not spending $70 on the cup because you're not doing it
I
for
agree.
drinking water. You're doing it for status, and that's fine. People have that social pressure, and it's fine.
But
It's
I
still-
agree. I would spend that $70, $80, $100 on a nice pair of shoes. I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. But
I
again,
think that's important. A stupid cup, I agree.
but what is the reason? Again, I'm all for fashion.
Right.
I'm all for looking good, and I'm all for my kids to be within a realm of a society where they don't feel less than anybody else. But there is a level of you're saying this is already too much.
Right.
It's
so now
already
you have
too
to
much.
develop your
So-
level.
So, and that's
but it's
our-
important for a kid's self-confidence
course,
also
of course.
to not look like, he can't get it, right?
Of
like
course.
growing up, we only knew Payless. And not because our parents wanted it that way, right? We did come from an immigrant family, blah, blah, blah. But our parents didn't understand the importance. And I don't know if it did good or bad. I don't know. But they, we didn't really fit in so much with what else was going on, right? We tried to a little bit here, a little bit there, but it wasn't the same. I think it's healthy for a child to fit in and to, again, not overkill. You don't have to have everything of the new fashion, but for them to have nice clothing, to be put together,
But-
to wear, to dress nice, to take care of themselves. It's healthy for their self-confidence. This is what I feel.
All right, coming back to the point that we were speaking about,
Okay.
in regards to self-esteem and all that, and you were saying it's important to make sure we look a certain way, and all that is fine. But there should be an understanding, and everyone should know, because when I ask people why they're doing certain things, why are you driving the car you drive, and the answer they do, it makes me feel good. I do it for myself. And there is a certain amount of truth to that. So I asked somebody, he got himself a Lexus. I'm like, why'd you get the Lexus? I like the car. I like the way it feels. I like the leather seats. It just makes me feel good. So I told him if I would take the L logo off the front and put a Toyota logo or a Ford logo on it, would you still drive the car? And he told me, no. So I'm like, so you're not necessarily doing it for yourself. You're doing it because of status. You're doing it because of
There's status that comes with it, yeah.
Awesome, and that's fine. And the status is what, in my opinion, for the most part, is what ultimately makes a person feel good. So I was learning with Rabbi Zivulunov once, and we were speaking about this. And we came up to the conclusion, and it's facts. If you were the only man in the world, you wouldn't care how you look, what you will wear, and any of that stuff, because there's no one there around you to judge you in any manner. You could walk out with a dirty shirt, with no shoes, with a Toyota, a Ford. You don't care what people think about you. So at the end of the day, most of the things that we do, if not everything, in regards to dressing up and looking and having a certain prestige, is to accept that pressure and that outlook from other people. Now, I want to add to that. I do believe that it's important. We're in the business world, right? You do have to look good because we have to make money, right? So if you want to look a certain way in order to attract and build a parnasa, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're trying to develop and you're a rabbi and you want people to look up to you and you need people to look up to you for whatever reason, you have to have that part. But understand there's two different things right now. It's one thing to dress up and drive something. I mean, this is, for the honest truth, in order to enhance certain things in your life. But you have to know that differentiation. You have to know when you're doing it in order to please other people or to look a certain way because it makes you just feel good for yourself, or is there a bigger picture to it?
So
yeah, go ahead.
I think about it in this manner, that when you're in a surrounding with friends, with people, and they are a little bit more advanced or better than you, that gives you a drive. If you're on an island on your own, you have no reason to drive. There's nothing that is driving you. That's why it says put yourself in the right surrounding with the right people in the right environment, and then you'll continuously better yourself. It's I like to call it the pursuit of perfection. Not perfection, but the pursuit of perfection, which will ultimately give you what Moshe was saying, is that balance,
right,
which is what we're looking for. So if you're around a bunch of guys who are always well-dressed, you're going to want to be well-dressed because you want to kind of fit into that. So you got to choose your social surrounding and continuously better yourself through that influence. So that influence not necessarily a bad thing; it's a good thing.
We even see, by the way, we even see that biblically. Like the Kohanim, right? They used to have a certain dress code. They can't come in wearing whatever they want.
Yeah, but they were exalting God over there. That's a little bit different.
Absolutely. We're also exalting God.
So that's fine.
Every single one of us are exalting God.
No one's saying over here that we should not dress up to look good. The thing is that when we're doing it, understand that when you're overdoing it,
don't make it an obsession.
Don't make it an obsession, and don't do it for other people. Do it for the right reasons,
right,
and understand that if you're driving an expensive car, whether it's a Porsche, a Lamborghini, and again, it could be enjoyable to drive, but be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Don't say I'm doing it because I like it. In the end of the day, there is a huge
goes with watches also.
with watches, with everything,
with everything.
With everything.
Balance, like Moshe said it. He said it perfectly. Bringing Shachar's words into here, you got to be balanced.
Yeah, balance is
perfection. Guys. So, guys, amazing podcast.
Yeah,
we're looking forward to the next one. Anybody who has any comments or any issues that you'd like for us to discuss within the community or even beyond to bridge that gap.
That's right.
Moshe, great name. I love it.
Thank you, man.
And we're looking forward to do some great things here. Thank you guys very much for making this happen. And
I'm so happy we did this, by the way, guys.
That's great.
This is great.
I think hopefully this is gonna bring some sort of impact and awareness to our community.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
I'm lucky to be amongst you guys.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Life is a series of hellos and goodbyes, and this is goodbye. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Peace.